We all remember recess growing up in school. Recess was the time of day all the conversations that you could not have while in class. Recess is where you had the real conversations. And real conversations we're going to have. In each episode of the Recess Podcast, I'm going to have real conversations explaining students and school. I'm David McGuire, and I'll be your host. It's recess time, y'all.
Happy lunch. Happy Saturday. Welcome back again, the Recess Podcast, streaming live from the Teach Indy Now Educators Conference 2021. It has already been an amazing conference, beginning yesterday with the hire fair, this morning with the keynote, with the morning sessions. I had the opportunity to listen in on the keynote, and then I sat in on Dr. Murph's presentation, and it was amazing. And I'm excited to be hosting this lunch session that's also on the main stage, but also for those of you that haven't yet, and I'm going to put this up here because there's some folks, and it's not too late, that hasn't registered yet for the conference. You still have time. You can still register for free and get on and listen to the afternoon and participate Sunday. So make sure you do that. I'll leave this ticker here, but I'm excited to have some guests with me. We're going to talk about the power of teacher voice. But before we do that, Sarah, Marsha, and I are going to talk about the conference, what it is, why it's happening, what folks have already experienced, what they can look forward to, the prizes. This is just a lot happening with this conference, and it's all happening for free. And so if you haven't already registered, need to do so and missing out. If you have registered, call your friend, tweet your friend, Facebook your friend, go to your friend's house, get them registered, get them logged on, whatever you need to do to get them logged on. So Sarah, just first, let's start for a lot of folks who are probably listening to this on Facebook or YouTube who haven't registered for the conference. What is the Teach Indy Educators Conference and why?
Yeah, well, thanks first off, David. Thanks so much for your support the last 2 days. It has just been so nice to have you all as a partner here. But the Teach Indy Educators Conference really came from thinking about how do we empower the voice of teachers right now more than ever. But the Teach Indy Educators Conference is a 3-day free conference, as you mentioned. It has kind of 3 focuses. The first day was on hiring. So yesterday we had people get jobs. Like they interviewed with our incredible school leaders, and we had people that secured positions, and we're excited because that means more great teachers for our kids in Indianapolis. Today is all focused on development and rewards for teachers. So as David mentioned, we had an awesome keynote this morning. Miss Anashay Wright, Anashay Teach Him Right, who's a dear friend of mine, really brought in some great nuggets of information this morning. And we had some sessions throughout the morning, lunch, and then we're going to come back with some more sessions so that we can really dig in and develop our teachers throughout the day. We're going to be giving away premier subscriptions to things like Kahoot, Pear Deck. We've got some UB boxes, so classroom supply boxes. And then I heard that there might be a little bit of a surprise coming from the college football playoffs, who's a key partner of ours. So people do not want to miss what's coming up. And then the final day tomorrow is a day where we just get to say thank you. So that's our recognition day. And again, the goal of today's conference was just to really figure out how to celebrate teachers in a time that is pretty unprecedented. With COVID-19 and return to school, hybrid learning, all of that. So, yep, that's a little bit about the conference, David.
Already, it's been amazing, and I'm looking forward to that surprise from the college football playoffs. And for those that don't know, those that aren't maybe too connected with what's happening in Indianapolis, why this conference is amazing, because here's a couple things that is shown about our city, right? We hosted the Super Bowl back in 2012, and I will say it, we hosted the best Super Bowl, not only just from a Midwest state because it's cold here in February, but one of the best Super Bowls. And that's not coming from me. People, if you ask folks that do those Super Bowls, they will tell you Indianapolis put on a great Super Bowl experience. We hosted the Final Four plenty of years, but this year we just hosted the entire NCAA men's tournament. In Indianapolis, we have the college football playoffs coming, which is exciting. We have a conference, and I'm sure after all these success, the NBA All-Star Game will be back. So what this conference is telling you, for those that live in Indianapolis, why this is such a great place, before our folks that are visiting us, that, this virtual conference from out of state, other cities, other states, it's letting you know that Indianapolis is a thriving place for if you are newly graduate and looking to launch your career. If you are if you have a family, small family, big family, Indianapolis is a place where wherever you fit as an educator, this is a place where we want you and we believe that you can thrive. And so the conference highlights the talents that's happening in the city with the sessions. And so this is just amazing. Sarah, your team, and I want to put at the bottom, give you an opportunity to thank the sponsors who folks can see, but some of those sponsors and how they contributed to make this conference a success.
Absolutely. It takes an entire village to really pull an event like this one together. Starting with our teachers, what I think the most proud of is of our 30 sessions, 30 presenters or so today, 18 of them are classroom teachers in Indianapolis. And so David, it just stamps from me the incredible talent that we have here in the city. And I'm glad that they are sharing what their authentic experience is, right? In the classrooms. What are they learning? Because I think they're their own best teachers. So I just want to, number one, huge shout out to our teachers. Number two, I couldn't say enough to thank our sponsors. Sponsors are InnoPower LLC, InnoPower, Buzzworthy LLC, who's doing all of our social media, Educate Me Foundation, that's been fantastic with helping us with the platform, and Teachers Treasures that's supporting us with our giveaways. And then I, would be remiss if I didn't mention our title sponsor, the Mind Trust, who has really just been a champion for teachers and a champion for kids in the city. And they have been fantastic in supporting this conference. And our goal is to only make it bigger. So this is the first of many. Next year, David, to your point, I want it to be like a Super Bowl feel for teachers. I want it to be huge. I want that many teachers walking around saying, yeah, Indianapolis is the place I want to make my teaching career home.
Absolutely. And so before we, as excited we can be for what will be the Educators Conference 2022, there's so much more, right, that is left in the 2021 conference. Like I said, we have a whole slate of afternoon presentations, as you mentioned, that many of them are led by teachers, right? So you're getting to see and hear and learn from the talent that is in our classrooms here in Indianapolis that is helping to lead and educate our children. I have two that is joining us, but Sarah, before we turn it over to them and talk about this power team, is there anything else that you want to leave the folks with before we turn it over to our teacher panels and we talk about the power of teaching?
Yeah, well, you're going to hear from two incredible leaders that actually had their fingerprints all over this conference. I just want to elevate and give a shout out to our Teacher Response Committee, which is a group of 13 local educators that have given us feedback on how to make this conference great, how to make Teach Indy better for the city, and how to, really impact things like the Indiana e-learning lab that are also partners of ours here at the conference. So again, I just want to say thank you to this group. Thank you to the speakers that are coming up. We've got some power-packed folks that are going to be talking to us about translingualing, and making sure that cultural competence and abolitionist teaching are at the forefront of how we're leading. And then finally, I want to give a big shout out to our closing keynote from the Melanated Leaders. Oh, wrong side. Melanated Leaders are going to be speaking as our closing keynote today. So again, I just want to say a huge thanks to you, and looking forward to giving away some more prizes throughout the day today.
Absolutely. Well, listen, guys, Sarah has to get back to the business of running the conference, but Sarah, we thank you. I'm sure many of us who are presenting at the conference and who are attending the conference have been hitting you up and sharing things on social media. Also, if you are at the conference, make sure you use the hashtag Teach Indy Ed Con, hashtag Teach Indy Ed Con, and also hashtag Teach Indy Now. So use those hashtags so we can all share in the space of the conference. Anything you heard, anything you like, anything you want to highlight a conference, make sure you use those hashtags throughout the conference. And Sarah, thank you. We have a panel, and Kevin, who I met yesterday, brother, I'm going to turn it over to you. Reintroduce yourself to folks and let folks know what session you're presenting on.
Awesome. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kevin Melrose. I'm a social studies teacher at Northwest Middle School. Go Pioneers. And right after this, in about an hour, it looks like I'm going to be leading a session called A Co-Conspirator's Guide to Abolitionist Teaching. I'm really excited to collaborate and discuss with you guys abolitionist teaching methods and models, especially from what white, male, cis educators can do to make sure that they make that transition from allyship to co-conspirator status. So we're gonna get down in the muck. We're gonna learn. We're gonna be vulnerable, but we're also gonna take what we learn and apply it to our everyday life. So I'm hoping we lead with actionable steps like that.
And Kevin, remind us what time you're going on.
I'm on right after this, so I'm 1:30 to 2:20. So hope to see some of you folks there.
1:30 to 2:30, absolutely. And listen, my new friend who actually was a guest on the Recess podcast, and we had an amazing time. So, Miss Shauna, reintroduce the folks who you are and what parts you played in supporting the conference.
Good morning, everyone. My name is LaShawna Trammell. I am a high school English teacher at George Washington High School. I was one of the 13 teachers who supported Miss Sarah in the teacher committee. And we just looked at different events and organizations, and we just provided teacher feedback, or I provided teacher feedback along with my other colleagues about what could we do in the city just to give teachers our voices, and so the teachers could have a voice within the city.
I love it. And in case you guys can't notice by the board, this is a teacher, a true teacher. It is Saturday afternoon at 12:26, and she's at work helping to make sure that her students graduate. So again, if you are not familiar with how Indianapolis rolls, this is how hard we go for our kids, right? Even on a Saturday where she's helping to work and be behind the scenes at a conference, she's also putting her students at the forefront. And so I just wanted to make sure we shouted you out for that, because that's amazing. And so if you hear some students in the background, that's just students hard at work. That's all that is. So listen, let's talk about, because the title of this lunch session for those, and again, if you're in the comments, if you're watching this, share with us what's been your favorite part of the conference thus far. But also, we're going to have a conversation about the power of teacher voices. So you two as teachers, just the idea, just the thought, why is it important for teachers to have a voice?
I'll kick things off. Being a part of this teacher response committee, it is something I highly cherish and value, because I feel like there's so many different education initiatives and organizations where people, want, to create these positive changes within, the education world. They have no clue what it's like to be a teacher, let alone to be a teacher within Center Township in Indianapolis. And especially being in a pandemic, I'm going to value the opinion of someone that's had classroom teaching experience, a recent classroom teaching experience as well, so much more than anybody that just has written a book or has read a study and is treating our students as data or statistics. Our teachers lead with an empathy-driven mindset, and they know just by being on the front lines what it takes to help our students and to build these sorts of communities. And so this conference being driven by teachers for teachers is an awesome platform just for that.
Absolutely. Ms. LaShawna, I'm gonna bring you in next, right? The power of a teacher voice. When you hear that, what do you think of?
The power of a teacher's voice. It gives teachers the ability to show our community leaders, those within the parents, other colleagues, so like we're human, like we're real. And when other teachers hear our voice, they understand that they're not in it alone. Like other teachers, you're not in this pandemic alone. We are in this pandemic together, coming out of the pandemic. We're in this together, and our best support is each other. And how can we as colleagues come in together to, I love the keynote speaker, to disrupt education. How can we all come in together to ensure that the students who we serve they receive a better future, that they're able to walk into something better than what they're walking out of. So teacher voices, you just get this authentic voice of like, this is who we are. I have a very authentic voice. I'm going to tone it down a little bit today. But it's always best to hear from someone who's, like Kevin said, who's in the trenches, who's in the mud. Sometimes our admin team is so far removed from the classroom that while they sympathize with us, sometimes it's hard for them to empathize with us. Mm-hmm. So you just get that authentic voice of like, this is what's happening in the room, and you get that safe space. Yeah. And you get a free conference. Like, what's better than free?
Come on, man. Free 99. And I'm going to put it there at the bottom in case if you're watching it. This is where you register for the conference. It's free. And you listen, you better jump on it now, because I don't know if it's going to be free next year, because the price is going up on the conference. So get it in while you can with it being free. But LaShawn, something you said, Kevin, your thought resonated, but LaShawn, you said something about administrators, right? And the power of a teacher voice. And those that know, maybe don't know, I am a principal or school leader, administrator, whatever you want to call it. But here's what I tell folks all the time. I'll hop in the classroom in a minute. I was just in the classroom yesterday teaching. I teach a portion of the day every day. Every day, the last 35 minutes, 45 minutes of the day, I teach an intervention block at the end of the day for third graders every single day, right? Because I want to stay connected. But what I do know is my power, my authority is teacher voice. And so here's what I wrote. I said, the teacher's voice is a powerful instrument. It sets the tone and environment for the entire school in terms of engagement, behavior, and rapport with the students. It contains valuable insight on the experiences, and it's important for that teacher voice to set the tone for the entire building. So I know that it is my job to help elevate the voices of the teachers in our building, right? They're the most connected to the students. They're the most connected to the families. And so if their voice isn't being heard, then we're not getting the true perspective of what's happening in our schools. And so while I am in that school leader seat, I do know the value of having strong teacher voice. And I make sure that we push that. And so the next piece I want us to talk about is, you guys keep mentioning the committee, right? What is the response committee, the task force? Kind of talk a little bit about what that work was like on the back end in preparation for the conference and even now.
Well, part of what we did on the committee, and Kevin, please feel free to hop in when I get off track. But we looked at different platforms of community partners who would like to do something for teachers. What do teachers want in the city? Do you want gift cards? Do you want coffee? What is it that the community can do for the teachers within our inner city? And basically, that's what the teacher committee did. Is every other Thursday we met for about an hour and a half, and we just looked at different platforms, different websites, anything that could help teachers be better teachers.
Right, and something that we especially took a lot of focus on, Teach Indy is the one that drives the teacher response committee, is we really from the ground up helped put our input and preferences, opinions behind this conference. So I remember, working on Jamboards and collaborating on all the ideas and speakers and sessions that we're interested in talking about. And it was really, it's really an amazing time to also collaborate amongst teachers from different districts, different networks, whether they're within IPS, the innovation schools, the charter schools. It's a really great time to break down those barriers that, we've artificially created and just collaborate amongst colleagues, amongst professionals, amongst people that want to help our students. And that is something I really value. Really quick, I also want to comment on administrators. David, I think you are in the very rare minority of administrators that definitely help in the classroom. And I really respect and admire you for that. I also respect and admire that I see a lot of administrators in the sessions. That's awesome. We're getting administrators to hear from teachers and not, people that haven't been in the classroom for years. So this is awesome. This is a great time.
You know what? When I was sitting in the sessions and thinking about scrolling through the sessions, what I started thinking about as an administrator? We're so quick when we have professional development or have trainings or have these things. We're always looking on Google, right? And looking for experts, right? You know what this conference has just done for me? I now have a whole list of locally based experts in certain fields that I can tap into. So when I'm thinking about summer PD planning, for those that work in schools that have 2-week training like we do at Tinley, right? I'm going to be remembering these sessions and I want to do something on literacy. I know there's a group from Paramount teachers that are doing something on literacy practices, right? We want to make sure we continue to integrate technology into our classrooms. Oh, there was a session at the Teach Indy conference about integrating Desmos, right? this conference is also allowing for educators in the city to tap into other educators. So we're not just reaching out to national experts, which is great, but why not tap into the people that are here? And I'm going to try to do something while we're live. So I'm going to share my screen because I want to share with the folks some of the sessions that are coming up. And I want to make sure that I get this right. And so hopefully you guys are going to be my eyes. You should see on your, there you go. So on the screen there, you see, so that's us, right? The Recess Podcast, the Power of Teacher Voices, but see other sessions that are coming up. So there's my man, Kevin, right there with his session coming up there. But these are just the afternoon sessions that you can get. So there you go. Best practice in hybrid learning. Hybrid learning is going to be around, right? If there's one lesson from the pandemic that we take, it should be around, right? Making sure we provide hybrid learning. So there's a session on that. There's SEL, right? A whole school approach. And so you see CFI 27, they're leading a session with their team over a whole school approach, taking technology to the next level, right? Translanguage and code learning, creating spaces, right? There's early literacy strategies for online and in person, right? Jamboard, winning scaffolding, right? So these are all the sessions that are coming up in the afternoon. So listen, this is what I encourage people, even sessions that overlap, do two, right? Hop into one, then hop into another one, right? There's a session. There's a lot of things that you can learn and share with other folks. But there's a lot of afternoon sessions that I wanted to make sure that we highlighted so folks knew what they can look forward to. Right? Is there anything you guys want to add about? Kevin, I know you're presenting. Let's shine like any about those afternoon sessions, right? Just important for folks to tap into a session that aligns to them, but also encouraging those that work in schools to tap into each other when we're thinking about trainings and things like that. What's your thoughts around that idea?
My first thought would be call your colleagues and say, hey, you go in this session, you go in this session, you go in this session. We're all
divide and conquer.
And then we're going to all meet up for like coffee. You come over to my house, we're going to barbecue, and let's talk about these sessions. As a high school English teacher, I think a very important session for all high school English teachers is that K-3 literacy session. It will give high school teachers a better understanding of why students come to us, and it's not anyone's fault. So I think for me, the literacy, that K-3 is foundational for high school teachers to go back and look at.
Yep. Kevin, what about you? The importance of now schools and school leaders tapping into this local talent when they need training, when they need development, right? Like instead of going out paying, let's keep the money in the city. Let's keep the money in the profession. Let's support, right? Let's take that Title IV, that CARES Act money, and let's help support, right? Because we know teacher pay is a big thing. Let's offset that and say, hey, I saw you did a session over, right? SEL whole school approach, right? Would you love to come and talk to my school, my district? Like, what's your thoughts about that movement?
Man, don't even get me started. We're talking about teacher retention being a problem. What better way to reinvest in our staff to promote leadership than by doing it within? What better expertise do you have to create future educational leaders? And I'm so excited for the melanated panel that I'm presuming is going to talk about this. Then developing that leadership locally and building it up. I mean, we have the recipe for success. We just need to see that commitment, that funding, and further legislative initiatives being put towards this. Absolutely. Amongst the 100 or 200, I don't know what the exact number is right now, folks here, I think we can all agree on that, but how can we expand further, right? And so that's why this being the first conference, man, I can't wait to see where we're going to go. Listen, this is awesome.
It's awesome. Listen, and I'm going to add, like I said, if you have attended the conference, make sure you use the hashtags, #Teach Indy EdCon, #Teach Indy Now. I'm going to add another hashtag, #Free PD, because this conference is free, and this is professional development, and this type of quality professional development you usually do not get. So it is
PGP points.
Oh, I forgot about the PGP.
Yes.
Not just for teachers, but as administrators, I need the points as well, right? So this is how you can keep those licensing and things like that. What better way to do this than attend this free conference, right? Most of the time you got to pay for those things. So, during this last session, I hope you guys are getting your lunch, but I hope you have this tuned in. And again, continue to share and like and comment. But I want to talk briefly because, Kevin's got to get ready and LaShawna's teaching and doing with the conference. And I want to hop into some sessions. So we're going to be with you about 10 to 15 more minutes. But I want to talk about the idea, and Kevin and I talked about it last night, but LaShawna, we want to loop you in. This idea of this conference being built for teachers and by teachers. Why is that so important now with everything that's happened over the past year with education and with how much work, how much we put on teachers? Why is this important to have this type of conference? So Kevin, I'll start with you maybe to highlight some of the points and talk about some of the points you shared yesterday.
Sure. Well, I'm going to pull from Miss Teacher Wright from this morning. We cannot go back to the way things were. They weren't working. And for those they were working for, it was not an equitable way, right? We need to work for all students, no matter their zip code, no matter their where they come at what reading level, no matter their iLearn scores. Forget all of that. We need to focus on educating the whole child, right? And so teachers, we're the ones that are working face to face with these students. So we should be at the very if we're going to be forced to be put on the front lines, working in a global pandemic, our opinions and values and our histories and our knowledge needs to be put on the front lines as well. So let's take what we're learning in this conference and then apply it. This Monday, let's rest and celebrate tomorrow. But then Monday, we need to hit the ground running and continue what we've learned and apply it into our daily profession.
Absolutely. LaShawn, what about you when you think about this conference, right? Built by teachers for teachers. Why is that so important right now with everything that's happened over the past year?
I tell my colleagues all the time, we're the first to ever do it. No one's ever done it before. And it's something about when you're the first. And when you're the first, you don't get to just tread the water. We were thrown into the water and told to swim. The teacher voice is so powerful right now because not only are we the first, but we're the first responders and we have access to the minds, to the brains of the students. The teacher's voice is so important because the students tell us what they want to know. The students tell us, this is what we want our learning to look like. And then we take that back and we create that model. And then we turn to the administrators and say, here's the model. This is what we're going to do. So for me, that's why that teacher's voice right now is so important because no one's ever done it before. So they can't really say, this is what it looks like, y'all, or this is what it's not. So we have access to like the most valuable resource, our students, and the students and the teachers together, they create something I told my students yesterday is like, what are we willing to do to change what we see? And that's kind of where my students are going right now is that like, we're about to shift some things. And how bad do we really want to shake and dismantle the system brick by brick? Absolutely.
I love that from both of y'all. Listen, again, when I think about this conference and I think about just the past year, right? When as school leaders, when the pandemic first happened and school shut down and we had to switch to online learning, it was really important then to tap into our teachers, right? To get their thoughts about what this should look like, right? You're now seeing the fruits of that labor, right? Virtual learning has made everyone in this education space, everyone adjacent to education, become more creative about how we educate children, how we connect with one another, how we support families, how we support schools, right? This conference being built by teachers for teachers is the fruits of that, right? And I it shouldn't have taken, right, a global pandemic and schools shutting down for us to rethink about the way in which we educate, the way in which we provide access to quality technology and things like that. But it did, right? And it shouldn't have taken the loss of life, but it did. But what the important thing is, right, to quote, Jasmine Ward in what happens on the next time around, right? What happens the next time? So I always talk about, right, I'm a big James Baldwin fan, as you can see it in the back there, right? He wrote The Fire Next Time, and then Jasmine Ward circled back with The Fire This Time. I always think about the education next time. We are now launching into a new phase of education, right? Part of that phase, I believe, is the true elevation of the teacher voice. But my challenge, now I'm with two dope teachers here. There are 24 other teachers that are presenting, I think, over this conference. They understand that power in their voice. My challenge is the other teachers who are unsure about how powerful their voice is. Now more than ever, you need to make your voice be heard. Now more than ever, you need to make sure you elevate your voice. And if you don't know how to do it, I encourage you to tap into those that do. If you're attending this conference that is free, you're seeing and hearing from teachers who are not afraid to speak their truth, who are not afraid to step out there and lead. Tap into those folks, reach out to them, DM them, write them on Facebook, email them, right? That's what this is about, right? And those teachers that are doing these sessions, make yourself accessible, right? I know Kevin, I know LaShawna are accessible, but I encourage the other teachers who are presenting to do the same thing as well. So you two briefly talk about why it's important for teachers who have a voice to be accessible to those who don't have a voice. And LaShawna, I'll start with you. You talked about that voice of yours. Why is it important for you to have that voice and to support those that may not have that voice yet?
Well, I don't know. I can't even, I think I was just like naturally given this voice. It's like my gift, but sometimes it's a curse, right? I think it's important to support our teachers that don't have or haven't found their voice. They have it, they just haven't found it. It's very important to support them, to help them find that voice and to show them how to authentically walk in that voice, and just to lead by, to model like using your voice and being comfortable using your voice. And as your colleagues see you get comfortable, they'll become more comfortable. And once they realize like, oh, Shauna got my back. Yeah, I got your back. And then when we unite those voices, so when they see other people using their voice, then they'll start using their voice. And we're educators, like we are a force to be reckoned with. If we all walked out the schools, what would they do? So we're a force to be reckoned with. So I'm accessible to any educator, just to show you that like you can do it. Like it's there, you have your voice, walk in it, walk in your truth, walk in your power, speak your truth.
I love that. Speak your truth. And part of the problem is a lot of educators are not given the platform to do so. And they're faced with punitive punishments for doing so. This takes a full-fledged commitment, both on the federal, state, local, administrative, and classroom level. Teachers, administrators, students even need to be able to shift away from focus on making sure that our growth scores increase on our iLearn test, and being able to have these real conversations that will then hook students into wanting to be in the classroom, into wanting to, apply these real world learning principles that will create, these digitally engaged or hybrid or in person, who knows what the future has to hold, but contributing civil citizens in our country. I mean, what better platform to do so than by elevating teacher voice? And so I do hope that one takeaway from this pandemic is that we do shift away from the standardization and towards this more individual creativity mindset.
Absolutely. And again, in case you didn't know and you haven't been listening, this is the Recess Podcast, streaming live from the Teach Indy Now Educators Conference 2021. Excited to be here. I have LaShawna and Kevin, who are on the task force, who help provide feedback and suggestions on how to make this conference really be geared for teachers and to teachers and things like that. So excited to have them. Hope you've enjoyed the conference thus far. For those that have attended, I've been enjoying seeing the chats and connecting with the educators that I didn't know here in the city. But don't forget, the conference is still going on. It's still free. And so make sure you register. You see it there at the bottom. There's a lot of afternoon sessions that are happening. So I want to make sure that you know those. And again, my same push has been, make sure you continue to share this with somebody. Again, it's really, really important that you do that because, again, we want to make sure that we continue to stay in this space. Also, again, want to give a shout out again to our sponsors, Buzzworthy LLC, that's doing the social media, the Educate Me, that helped put on a great teacher recruitment effort yesterday and continue with the work today. NO Power, Teachers Treasure for all their sponsorship and gifts and supports. And last but not least, the title sponsor of the Mind Trust. Folks know how I feel about the Mind Trust and the work that they've done. It's been amazing. And I don't listen to all the other noise, because these are individuals in an organization that is investing in children, in parents, in teachers, in schools, and in our city. And as a title sponsor for this event, they have put their time, their talent, and their treasure into making sure that this conference could be free for individuals, that it could be done in a virtual platform, that it could be done with providing the resources. So I want to give a major shout out to them. And also, the Teach Indy, right? Who's under the umbrella, right, of the Mind Trust. Teach Indy is geared towards showing individuals, right, the power that is here in Indianapolis. And so it's in the name, right? Teach Indy now. Come teach here, and we definitely want to get you there. So before we leave folks on their lunch, as they're enjoying their lunch and listening to this, and people like Kevin, who in their head is prepping for his session, I want to give him time to get ready for his session. In our final thoughts, right, I want each of you to share what do you hope at the end of this conference, how it kickstarts, how we reinvent, reimagine, and redo education for our children and for the teachers. So again, that question, how do you see at the end of this conference kickstarting how we reinvent, reimagine education? And then, so Kevin, I'll start with you, and then LaShawna, I'll go with you.
Well, my head kind of just went to what you were saying, how everyone listening should tell 3 people they know to sign up and register, right? I feel just the same, that we should be telling 3 people we know what we've learned, how we can apply these things. Something I'm loving about the sessions I've been attending is we're seeing actionable steps that we can apply to our daily lives. LaShawna, you were talking about having a barbecue. I can't wait once this whole pandemic is over to collaborate and build those sorts of authentic relationships and collaborate amongst our colleagues in a real meaningful way to fight for these social justice initiatives that I hope we're all working towards. How can we apply this? Once we leave, I think that's going to take a commitment, and I'm prepared to make it, and I know that everyone here is prepared to make it, because look, it's 12:50 on a Saturday, and here we are. So let's get everybody we can,
Reinvent and reimagine. Well, first of all, David, thank you for always giving teachers a voice, a platform to share our voices. So I just first wanted to thank you for that really quick. But to reinvent and reimagine, while you're going to get a lot of amazing information today and valuable information, pull one thing, take one thing that you can pull and start in your classroom on Monday. And that's how you reinvent and reimagine what's happening in your classroom. And then it'll eventually filter into the rest of your building. But you're going to get tons load of free information. Pull one thing. What's one thing you can do on Monday in your building? And that's how you reinvent and reimagine the classroom environment.
I love it. I love it. And listen, Kevin, you said it is 12:53, and folks is on a Saturday. And so my final thoughts is simple. I want to make sure that I continue, and we got some folks giving some love. I want to put that up there, some love in the chat. So again, I want to say this to everybody. Don't forget, I forgot to mention, it's still time to register for the college football playoff surprise and other prizes, right? So it's not too late for that. But I also want to celebrate what's going to happen tomorrow in the conference, when we just get to celebrate all the great work that teachers are doing. I think it's amazing. So hopefully, teachers that you've registered for these prizes, school leaders you've registered and nominated teachers. So make sure that you guys tune in for that. You can do that by registering for the conference, which is still free. So make sure you register for the conference as well. But my final thoughts are simple. I got to ask for everybody, particularly my school leaders. The summer is coming up. We're thinking about how we're planning professional development for those of us, or we're just thinking about how we're going to use professional development. A lot of us had a lot of money from CARES that we put towards a lot of different things. What better way to use that money than to invest in teachers and their talents? So again, my ask and my challenge, and I'm even going to take the challenge on myself as a school leader and someone with the voice in my network. I am encouraging all school leaders, right? School leaders that are leading schools, that have the platform. Take a look at the conference and the people that presented. Find 2 teacher-led presentations that you are willing to bring in to your school to lead a session. But not only that, I'm encouraging you to provide them with the means financially. I'm not saying you got to break the bank on them, but pay people for their worth and pay people for their talent. So my ask to my school leaders and my final thought is to tap into the talent that is here locally. Find a session that you think aligns to the work you're doing at your school, and reach out to that person, ask if they would be willing to lead a session and provide financial compensation. That is my ask for you. I want to thank everyone that's thus far that's tuned into the conference, that's supported. I want to thank humbly, personally, Sarah Marshall for the opportunity she's provided with me with the Recess podcast. Thank you to the Mind Trust and all the other sponsors who've allowed the Recess podcast to just be a part of this first of its kind inaugural event. It's humbling and it's honored, and I appreciate it. And what I said yesterday, what I think highlights what's happening at the conference, right? It's the same mantra that I have for the Recess podcast. Create the platform, which we have with the conference. Control the conversation, which we've had because it's led by teachers, and change the culture, which is what we're going to do for teaching and education. Enjoy your lunch, everybody. Don't forget, register for the conference. Tune into the afternoon sessions, and we'll see you guys in the sessions. Take care.